This is the sound of the Killa beatbox body part sample pack. Over 120 loops, samples, and one-shots for your music production. Exclusively on Splice.
Killa podcast. KillaOfficial.com.
Beatbox created.
Killa.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live and direct, Central London serves you right. This is the Killa podcast, and here's Neneh Cherry.
Yo, what's up? Hello.
How are you?
Long time no see.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know why that is.
No.
It seems to be that.
I just think it's funny, isn't it? How you can be like, because we actually live just like, it's just a few footsteps, right? It's like a walking distance. I just came up along the canal. It took me like 10 minutes. And it's so weird. I have lots of other people like that like you, that I adore.
Don't know each other.
And you know what I mean? And I just, that I haven't seen for ages, like you. Time is fluid. Life is fluid. I guess it's time now.
Yeah. Yes,
that's exactly the thing.
It flies.
It really, really, really
It flies. And before you know it, it's like everything's just sort of like on top of each other. Dude, I can't remember. Wow, it's been that long, you know? Yeah, it is that.
Yeah, it kind of goes in a minute, because it's a funny sort of thing, isn't it? Like a duality between a lot of things happening, like having a lot of stuff under your belt, and at the same time, it's like happened too fast. And I kind of feel that a little bit, like being where I am in my life. I'm 54, right? And check it out.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not bad.
The genes are real.
I'm still hanging.
Looking
I have
gorgeous.
a 14-year-old grandson. I mean, it's like, so if it wasn't for him and like my kids and kind of knowing how old they are, I guess my concept of how long ago, like for instance, I saw you would be, I would say, have some weird denial thing, you know, that it was the other day.
I see. So what you're saying is like, because you're seeing them kind of mature and in part
and myself mature.
Do you believe in that sort of stuff? Like, because I think I have. There's a lot of grounding in that. And I think a lot of artists do have that kind of mentality of like, there's a spiritual kind of journey that comes with being not only being creative, but being like living in the moment. When you got kids, that you literally are having to live in the moment, right?
You are kind of in. Yeah, you're in the moment, and you know sometimes the moments happen, kind of pass you by too quickly. So sometimes I have these crazy, not yearnings, but kind of like, and I wouldn't call it nostalgia, but just kind of like, oh my God, like did I actually make the most of those moments where my kids were in, you know, the different stages that they have gone through when they were growing up. I could say the same thing for things that I've done in terms of my work. And I think especially when you're younger, I guess you are just stomping through things, kind of rolling through things and not really paying too much attention to. Yeah. You don't really, in a way you shouldn't. You should just be getting on with just kind of doing it. Yeah, and I think like the tribe of people, like I think we kind of come from the same school of thought where it's just not so much about sitting around kind of overthinking what you're going to do, but just kind of getting on with it, almost like a, you know, punk, hip hop punk mentality, you know, like
rolling with the punches.
Rolling with the punches. But I think, you know, the nice thing about, you know, the journey and kind of aspect of continuing is that with the kind of history of your journey under your belt, you can start to feel like you can cut things away. Like I kind of feel like that shit over there, I don't know that I don't need to pay too much attention to the certain things that I'm not that interested. I feel like I can pick and choose, and that I can be more directed in a way, and and in a way that makes me feel, when I look at like my creativity and my work, that there's an aspect that I haven't even started yet, and that's kind of really cool. Like I feel like there's still so many things that I haven't done, because now I feel like I'm starting to choose the things that I want to do in a different way, and it's like it's kind of cool, you know. And I feel like we live in a time where, you know, some people would be like, do you really want to tell people like how old you are? Like, isn't that like a kind of a you know,
know, man.
unsexy or something. Do you know what I mean? And I think like, yeah, like there's bits about going back to the thing of time where sometimes I can feel like, shit, I wish I'd kind of appreciated like myself, you know, parts of my body,
see.
you know, how I was when I was like maybe 25 or 26.
Yeah.
But, and you know, your eyesight, fucking your eyes break, you know, there's certain things that just start to kind of deteriorate. But I think also there's something beautiful about it. You know what I mean? I think there's something
I say so, man.
it's
Like,
about the natural process in life, you know. And I think, yeah. Well, you were going to say something. I'm just meandering.
no, I think
on.
no, not at all. And it's fascinating because, you know, to have a conversation like this, and years on from when we were first hanging out.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
When I started like stalking you, when I discovered you, right?
man,
I was like,
hey,
I was like, "Shh, this guy's so bad. I'm like, my God, I think I literally like called you up or something. I don't know.
You
how
were there
we
with
found
Judy
it.
as well, Judy Blaine.
Yeah,
it was
I think-
it was cargo, wasn't it?
Huh?
I think
it was cargo.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Norski was there, like
Yeah.
flashing around with the camera.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big night. That was like a true change of tide. I look at that show as very much a pivotal moment where I just felt like everything had kind of clicked, and I always relay that time, that particular
Really?
night in my head. Yeah, I do. I genuinely do.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say your attitude towards what you've just been saying actually reflects on the way that we've been communicating and chatting, because we do, but the chilled way in which you conduct, even in a text, I don't ever for a second feel you're getting stressed about anything. No, at no point do I think to myself, oh, like she's...
Oh, no, I'm glad I come across.
Do you know what I mean?
that.
It's like everything's got a smile and a kiss and a chirpy kind of... It doesn't feel like any kind of forced energy of any description. It's like you're just kind of getting on with it, and you're constantly in the moment.
I'm really trying to be more like that. Like, I think, you know, there's so much information and stuff going on constantly around all of us. I mean, the world is just moving in kind of double time in a way. I guess I've come to a place where I'm starting to appreciate that I'm kind of quite a slow person, and that I just like need time to digest things. So I'm just trying to, and like, I mean, I'm going to put an album out soon, I guess in
19th of
September.
October.
And my friend Kieran Hebden produced it, right? And he's a G, but he's a wonderful, really wise human being. And we were hanging out in my kitchen a few months ago, and he was like, I was talking about, you know, maybe changing labels, or, you know, throwing some things in, stoking some new fires. And he was just like, don't forget, like, you need to have fun.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't want to be like in a place where you like come off stage and, you know, all of a sudden you're just like surrounded by a bunch of people that you don't know or that you don't like that much.
I know.
And I think like now I'm just trying to, because I think what happens like like we all get stressed. And I think we all have like expectations, and, you know, you have things that you want to achieve, and sounds and music and, you know, places you want to go. And I think it's really easy to get like run over, you know, and to get kind of bypassed by your own intentions. So I've just been trying to kind of keep the reins in, and in a way it's like no matter what's happening around you, you know, like you're kind of, you know, if you can kind of stay the same within it, you know what I mean? So that you're kind of in tune with your own like...
Does that take a lot of thinking though? Because like sometimes I think
less thinking is
better. Because like a lot of times like you just are and you're there, but internally you know there's like that going that, you know what I mean? Everything's going crazy.
Because I think your brain is like, you know, okay, a finely tuned mind is amazing, but, you know, I think it's like in the Far East, or maybe like in particular the Tibetans, they refer to like the heart and the mind is the same thing. You know, and I think it's like that. There's like your brain is like, I think every now and then, like quite often, you know, you kind of need to harness your crazy brain and pull it in, because if you just go with the mind, it's going to send you off into all.
It's quite a selfish thing, the mind, isn't
It's
it?
fucking crazy, selfish,
Yeah, I mean,
little, you know,
It'll do anything.
crazy wild dog. You
Yeah,
know what I
it is,
mean?
yeah.
That'll just. So I think, you know, and I think like I've always, like I write with Cameron, you know, my husband,
Cam's a
a
man,
lot. Yeah, like we started like around Raw Like Sushi days, and we've just kept that relationship has always kind of been in one central bit of our relationship. And I think like we've always worked at home, you know, like a lot of my inner sanctum, the place that I'm in that I kind of, where things come to me, like of course out walking up the street, seeing, you know, all the imagery, all the stuff that's happening in the world.
More
course, the
prevalent around here,
impressions.
actually. More prevalent around here.
Like you see things, it's all of those impressions, of course, they pile up, but I'm usually in my own space to kind of digest those things and to process them. And so writing quite often just like happens in my kitchen or up in the bed, or, you know what I mean? I'll sit on my bed or just somewhere where I feel like kind of natural. Do you know what I mean?
Cool. So that's your writing process?
Yeah, like I don't, mostly for like lyrics and songs, I'm usually
That's awesome.
somewhere in my own space. Like I'll hear things or hear someone say something and just put a little note in my phone or whatever I've got, pen to paper. You know, like you'll hear someone say something on a bus, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah,
just
totally,
like, whoa.
Say that again.
Yeah, say it. What did you say? I wasn't listening.
A lot of times I have those moments when I'm drunk and I always regret not grabbing something, because you just you'll remember that, but you never do.
Yeah, you think like, oh, maybe just you do a little like try and tag it to something in your head so you'll remember it, but it goes.
It does go.
But I think like, so to me, like that's how we've always worked. And like in the early days when like Judy Blame, you know,
Our guy.
our guy, he, you know, we moved like a family, you know, even when everything was, because I think now my music's maybe coming out in a more, you know, not in the mainstream. It's in another little dimension. But when we were rolling down in the fast lane, we were still moving like, you know, like we always do.
It was crazy.
We were just like, you know, with the baby.
Yeah.
With all our shit, the baby walker, you know, a drum machine, you know, Judy with his stuff and his pins and needles and safety pins and irons and, you know what I mean? And
I've
like,
really loved a bit of fly on the wall.
bottle of hot sauce.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say, because the times I have been around your house or houses, and I'm sure this helps with the writing process as well, because of the flying circus of it. Well, I remember walking in, and mate, I remember walking in one time, right, and Makita Oliver was there, who's a close family friend.
She's my niece.
That's the one. And then Judy kind of meandered out by the side of a cupboard or something, and then you go upstairs and there's a sound engineer fixing up some sort of thing, saying, "Hey, come and check this." And then Cam's like scooting down. This must be like a total hub of creative activity.
This is just how we live, you know. And I guess, like, if I look back at like how I grew up, like my family life was like that. My mother said this thing once, that like the stage is the home is the stage.
Ooh, that cool. Ooh.
You know, and I
Hashtag
think
that.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, like I guess I've it's just come with me, like that thread of everything kind of growing from the center, from that place where the day starts, if you're lucky, and the day ends, or where we are, who we are, you know, where we can be who we be. And just like the thing of having like people and family and friends. I guess also like Cameron is a kind of a natural, like he's always got, when he hears something that he can see like greatness in, or when he meets kids or people that are like doing something really good, he'll always have someone that he's kind of helping. Or,
he works really well in studio, man.
Yeah, and
He's
just like
really good as well.
something that he's pulling along, and usually those people kind of end up being a part of our family. So, like, yeah, there's always a lot. It's a kind of hub of activity, I guess.
Did you ever hear the story that I had of your place down Mortimer Road?
And
do you remember this story?
So this is like
this is the crazy
Yeah,
story. So
bring it.
Right, so my girlfriend at the time, Amy, she'd moved down to Mortimer Road, and she said, I've got a friend called Carly Pins London, also Judy Blame's close affiliate and creator. And she was like, I've got a friend Carly, and it's her birthday. Do you want to come? You know, we just started dating. So I was like, yeah, cool, we'll go meet Carly. So we go to this place in Brick Lane, and that's Judy. I'm like, Judy? Like, he's like, Kela, you know. The next thing, we're having a drink, and I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm friends with Carly, you know. We work together a lot. I'm like, oh, that's wicked. How's Neneh? Yeah, Neneh's cool and everything. Anyway, this sparked off a long kind of like 4-piece of me, Carly, Judy, and Amy kind of hanging out. We'd bump into Noki, another amazing designer, you know.
Noki, yeah, another G.
And then out of nowhere, Judy just gave Amy a beautiful necklace that he made, and he goes, take that Topshop tat off, and here's the proper thing. And she goes home with it, goes back to the house. We wake up next morning, go downstairs, and Amy's flatmate was there making coffee, and he sees the jewellery necklace and goes, wow, who made that? And Amy was like, oh, it's a new friend of mine, good friend of mine, Judy Blame. He's a designer. He designed. And he goes, hang on a minute. And he goes over to the front of the door, pulls out like a wad of Judy Blame letters, and goes,
Such a trip.
Yeah. So not only did Judy live in the house, but so did you.
It was our house.
Yeah.
Like it was the first house that we bought, right? So I was living in Edith Road. I guess this was before so this was before Buffalo Stance came out.
Before Raw Like
Sushi. But I guess somehow we must have signed something because we had a little bit of money, enough to buy that house. Yeah. So I guess I'd signed. I must have been making the album. I must have signed to Circa, Ashley Newton, who then went on to Virgin, et cetera, et cetera. And we bought this house at in 139 Mortimer Road.
That's 139 Mortimer Road. That was it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then from there, I don't know if Judy lived with us in the house, but Ray Petrie lived there. Massive Attack did a lot of Blue Lines in there.
Dude.
All the demos, all that stuff in the back.
Crazy.
In that little back bedroom.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you went up the stairs and there was a room straight at the back?
Yeah.
That's where they all slept. We used to call it the poo room because, you know, you'd get up in the morning and it'd be like,
oh, yeah.
kind of
smelling
stinky,
the boys.
like five boys, in sleeping bags.
That's amazing.
So, and then we ended up having an office. So there was like the office in the living room.
At the back of the living room?
Yeah, the back of the living room. It was also the living room, you know, the kitchen, the back bedroom that became, you know, the studio, the kids that had their little bits.
I'm going to do a floor plan on the screen.
Yeah, we'll do a little floor plan on the screen. But, and then we left. I guess maybe we then bought another house up the road in Willesden. And Judy took over that place and rented it from us, or lived there, I guess, for a while. And then he had a bunch of kids living in the house because he was always doing kind of, you know, the same thing. So I think Edward, you know, of Vogue, Eden Full, who's now the editor of Vogue, was living there.
He was living there with him?
With him, and Michael Bodie, his cousin. You know, all these people were in and out of there. And then actually something weird, it was like we ended up having to claw the house off this guy who took it over, who was kind of a dealer or something. And we kind of knew at a distance.
Was he trapping it?
And he was just like, wouldn't leave.
He was trapping it.
Yeah. So he left. Nicely.
Yeah. I don't know how you had to go nicely.
But that's such a nutty thing. And you know, like, for instance, like if you want to make a little funny reference, we can make a reference. It's like when we were living in that house, Mondino, John Baptiste Mondino, who made the Man-Child video, came over one day. So I had the baby. Tyson was born. And I came to the door and I was like holding the baby at, you know, the house where you used to live.
Yeah, that's right.
Little towel on my head like I always do, you know, just hanging. And he was like, trying to find a way into what was going to be the idea for the video.
God, and then that was
and
just
he was
it.
like, just when you're just with the baby and the way you hold her, I want this to be the vibe of the video. And then he went out and sat in the car and he was just like listening to the track. We had a little Fiat Panda with like a tape machine in it, right? So I guess he was jamming the tune on the tape deck. And then my next door neighbor, who was just this wicked like woman.
Yeah.
I think they were Jamaica or West Indies somewhere. She used to wear like a lot of gold chains and she always had a little mini bottle of like opium perfume. She was like, you know, you never know when you might see a man when you might be trapped in a little hallway, you know. So, but she was out on the front with all of her gold, sweeping the front of her stoop, like just out on the street, just cleaning up. And Mondino saw her and he was like, yeah. So I think that's where he got the thing with the clotheslines. And, you know, Andrea hanging washing, Andrea Oliver, my great friend, and just the vibe. And then he was like wanting to make like a cradle effect. So he literally built a camera that swung. So to get this feeling of like cradling the baby. So for the whole video to have
the man-child kind of concept.
That was the idea. And so it came from that in that house.
That's incredible.
It's a trip, right? And then the first day, when he didn't tell me this actually until much later. The camera didn't work, and it was like for those days it was quite a big shoot. You know, it was quite a
and to not have a camera work on a day of
it was like, and that was the whole point of then. Like nowadays, I guess it'd be quite easy.
Straight on the camera.
Do it on the iPhone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But these were budgets, weren't they? You know?
Were, like big. But they got it to work, and lo and behold, the rest is history. Mm-hmm. But that's the 139 Watermore Road
amazing,
thing.
yeah.
And I've met other people, not with stories as quite as deep as yours, but like that have been through that house. Yeah. You know, but not knowingly, more like people that were either there through duty or whatever. But
it's a fault line. It tells you that you're doing the right thing at the right time. That's the kind of stories I like. It's when you know that wouldn't have happened for any other reason if A didn't connect with B and C, and we're all here at the right place at the right time. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
And I think that's a good like belief system to kind of believe in time and place. I feel like a lot of the things that I've been a part of in my life have happened because of time and place. Yeah. You know, and like being with the right people. It's more about like, I guess in a way being open enough to receive. So I find it quite hard, you know, when people want to analyze, like, oh, what was it like going on Top of the Pops pregnant? Or, do you know what I mean? It was just like, I was pregnant, you know, like I wasn't going to like, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't like
it wasn't like, well, wouldn't it be cool? Like.
You were just getting on with it at the time. I
got knocked up and it was like, shit, I just have to get on.
Yeah.
And then I guess, you know, like I think like we are, all of us, you take it in your stride. And actually it ended up being like a very good kind of protecting kind of thing, because I guess I was also like quite antsy about, you know, just that general vibe, you know, of the music business and, you know, that kind of expectancy that you're going to be the kind of sexy lady that they want you to be, you know, in a way, when whoever they are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I think there's a naturalness to you. I remember as you know, I think we're not too far off the age, but when I was growing up, like some of your songs are, in my head, are revered as a strong like soundtrack to my childhood in the 80s and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? Early 90s. So I think your persona, I guess the only way I can class it is the attractiveness combined with that MIA style. Don't give a fuck.
Well, it's like, I mean, I think you have to be militant. I mean, it's like, yeah, if I can't stand up in my boots and just, you know, it's that thing of like drawing a kind of a power and energy from, like you were saying, like being in the moment and being there. And I think we're all kind of like rebels. I mean, I've always wanted to break through the stereotype, you know? Yeah, I do. Roots, these paths, you know, that actually put a hell of a lot of pressure on, you know, there are a lot of great people. It's not to say that, you know, there aren't people who have got chosen to be more like that, where their greatness hasn't shown through. But there is I've always felt a kind of need, in a way, to not do the
status quo.
the normal thing, or that I have to, or that you have to. There's something, I think the joy comes from, in a way, pushing, being on the boat as it goes out,
Yeah.
And I think, like, that's I guess when it's like a kind of punk, punk.
With that in mind, and I don't want to go too personal with this question, but like, because from a label point of view, when we have that, I have that attitude, but there's a financial pressure as well, and the kind of circus, the circus, the traveling event of Neneh and the gang and doing it, like to just be at peace with that and going with it, and not worrying about the financial, because I know there's going to be some people that are watching it that just would not know what we're talking about because they've never been in our situations. So it's quite like, they'll see it as like well, how did they live? How did they do that? How do they do it now? How can you stick to a moral value of a punk aesthetic, but then at the same time be aware enough of like your financial position? Like, how do we eat?
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing, because I mean, I think, like, in a way, I feel so blessed, like going back to time and place, which seems to be like a reoccurring point here, right? It's like in that time where I felt like that I was kind of lucky enough to kind of grow out of, like, you were able to make it with very little. You could live in a squat.
Yeah.
You could crash on people's floors.
I think there's still that. I think there is still that.
There is, but I think it's a lot harder, but it's still there. Like, I think a lot of people, like, even I watch my own kids, like, they've ended up sometimes, like, literally just like having to work chasing a tail, you know what I mean? Like, waitressing crazy amount of hours to be able to afford to pay for a room that costs £800 a month, you know what I mean, or whatever. So it's like, it's hard, but I think that you can always choose. I get it's a hard one, because I feel like I have always been very conscious of the fact that I have choice, and looking at so many things that are going on in the world, it's not okay. It's not okay, and I think that it's so important in a way, because I think that there's been a kind of disillusioned thing that's like contaminated us with, where you just kind of go for a long time. I think now everyone's activating and feeling a kind of reacting to a lot of the things that we're just expected to kind of go like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah. It's like we're starting to, there's a lot of stuff happening right now, and I think people are like socially and politically conscious in a way that's like, I just went last night and saw the Ezra Collective play in a church in Hackney, doing a tribute to Fela Kuti.
Wow,
and
nice.
It was just like, they played in the middle and the audience was just all around them, and people were just like going
awesome,
nuts and just like dancing, and just a gathering like that is on a subliminal level as is so positive and activating. Do you know what I mean? It's just that thing of like, we all need to feel like whatever little thing you can add, just like your thought and your incentive
to the
will make a difference to the bigger picture. It's like, because sometimes it's like, I feel so helpless. Like, what the hell can I do? Yeah. But like, anyway, going back to what you were saying, I think it's like, awesome. There is living is hard, like the inner cities are just getting more and more kind of ironed out, and just literally being groomed for rich people. Do you know what I mean? And people are being pushed out of communities, and
like, you went to New York as well. New York's
New York is like, I love it. It's still New York, but it's like weird. I was like, came out of a friend's place on 2nd Avenue not that long ago. I used to live a lot on the Lower East Side. this is the East Village, but and I was just like, what's wrong? I was like, it's quiet. It's like this weird kind of, you know, like New York was always like, you know, the sharp, you know? So, but I think that there's always contrast, and I think it's about like what you choose to think about and what you choose to do with your thoughts. And and I think like even if you're having to fucking work your ass off, you know, there's always a minute where you could put a pen to paper or grow something in a pot. You know what I mean? Or do something, you know?
That's right.
But I think like it's like we've got, you know, there's a lot of things that need to be broken down, because it's also like this thing where I think a lot of us have been realizing like, you know, we've been fed, or we feed ourselves, or we like to think that we live in the society, you know, the Western world where, you know, all these things have happened before that have led us to all these great change. And now you're sitting here and you're looking at some of the things that are unfolding, separation, you know, Brexit, you know, I mean,
the whole,
and it's like nothing, all the things, you know, we won't go in this. I think everyone would know what a lot of these things are, but like it's, you know, and it leaves you with a feeling of like, you know, have I been doped? Like it's nothing is really.
Nothing.
Some things have changed a little, but we have some.
Yeah, but also, just going back to what you were saying about people's attitudes towards coming together, when the explosion of Instagram and all those different kind of newer platforms came about, there was a sort of, you know, constant self-entitlement to being famous or something that was always, it just kind of grew and grew and grew.
Self-indulgence,
yeah,
right?
Man.
Like,
and you know, I think as artists,
selfie me.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah, hashtag my life.
Yeah.
But it's like, as artists, I always feel a little bit about it. But we're artists, and that's kind of, you've got to play that role. A lot of people do it to strive for that role. Then all of a sudden, it feels like people have been given. They've almost like turned the camera back around and looked around a little bit more, and they're like, hold on a minute, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on while I'm busy thinking of myself here, and then all of a sudden it's galvanized, hasn't it? It's kind of made people a bit more aware of themselves with everyone else,
and
isn't
it's like that's kind of it's like becoming kind of empowered. Like, oh, I have a right to speak out, you know, and you can, like, there's a platform there, isn't it, where you can use it
like a beacon
to say shit, you know, that's and I think that in a way maybe that's like, if you're gonna, instead of like just saying how dread everything is and how awful, you know, there's the Trumps and the, you know, and all this crazy Donald Trump and you know, crazy people here, but maybe it could be the best thing that ever happened. I mean, just in the sense that it's terrible, but maybe the good thing is the wake up call that I think
brings everyone closer together
bring everyone closer together, where you can use it to like, and also just be like completely and fully alert about like, yo, this is really bad. Like, this is like racism is just off the radar. You know, fascism. It's like, and it's like, no, I don't agree. You know?
And because we've got the portals that allow us
not in my name.
Exactly.
And I think that,
but you can say that,
levels,
you know,
I think on many levels, I think that, you know, I think that a lot of, you know, I mean, we're saying it here, but I think a lot of people are feeling like a reaction, you know, when you just literally feel like it makes you gag or something, you know.
Too many times.
Yeah.
Too many, like, especially I mean, we won't get too deep into it, but I think when this thing's over with the whole Trump thing, with the whole Brexit thing, you know, 3-4 years down the line, I think we're fighting a storm at the moment. I think there will come a time of damaged collateral. Everyone will be like, okay, so what we learned here, B, what we got to pick up, what we got to fix here, because he's gone now, he's out of office, or she's gone, she's out of office. I think I think there is a constant reassessment, and it feels like people are together on it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't know where it's going to go.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could like, crawl into my shell, into my little snail
Just
shell,
forget
and
about
just
it.
like
Yeah.
have a panic attack. But I just feel like, you know, like that positive, negative, the negative stuff has to become like positive anger, you know,
That's
and
right.
energy. Like you have to make energy out of it to be stimulated, to say things and to do things. And I think like we have to. I have to kind of think that be a little bit kind of hopeful somehow to be able to carry on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that's like, and I think as long as like we all people can like say or do something, you can make changes. You know.
It's funny you say that.
So because otherwise it's just like.
Yeah, exactly. What we're doing,
You know.
right? What I'm here for, you know? Yeah. But that's punk, isn't it? Trying to create an energy out of something that is it's suppressing. My
Say
friend,
something.
Say something.
You
yeah,
know, and
exactly.
I think like Judy Blame was amazing.
Amazing
An
at
amazing artist and creator like that.
Yeah.
Because he would always have, he would hear, speaking of like hearing someone on the bus, or he was like, that's a T-shirt. You know, he would use the slogans, and he was always, you know, always making things, always creating
making,
things. And there was always a dialogue, right?
That's right.
Where it's a funny story actually, because like Judy, for you who don't know Judy Blame, like he made jewelry and art, but you know, a lot of jewelry out of things, you know, just like everyday things. So he was always collecting like plastic milk bottle tops, and he would buy like, you know, toy soldiers. And we were in Portugal a couple of years ago, and he found these, like, he made a lot of things with safety pins, gold, big, like old school nappy safety pins, but in gold.
Big ones, nice.
But this friend of ours, Ciro, do you know Ciro? He's from Ciro Medina. He's a friend of ours from Brazil. Judy loved Brazil.
Right.
And he was telling me this really funny story where Judy was there working on some fashion for some shows, and he had shoots, whatever. He was staying in this kind of nice hotel that had a gym, and he said to Sarah, you know, darling, I'm not going to go to the gym, but, you know, here you have the gym key, which was this little thing, and use the gym. So Sarah had been to use the gym and then left, and then Judy called him up like a day later, like, look, they're freaking out. Where's the key to the gym? Like, what have you done with it? And Sarah was like, I left it in the room. Judy was really pissed off, etc., etc. And then Sarah came over to the hotel to kind of try and help him look for it. And he looked on the table, and there was a piece of jewelry, and he'd sewed the key
Oh my God.
into the necklace. Because basically it was a little black piece of plastic, like a little...
I like that. I love that.
Yeah, he was like, oh, what's that? And he just stitched it into the necklace.
I love it.
Not realised that it was the key.
He had like
Yeah.
a proper punk look to his stuff, and it just always oozed like confidence in what he was doing at that particular thing on the stitch or the item that he was using. He was just. I always felt his stuff was made with such conviction, and I've got a bunch of his stuff still. And
he was a genius.
He was a genius, man.
He was a genius,
He was awesome.
and like, you know, I still have not.
Processed
That's
it completely.
that's going to take a long time.
Of course it will. You guys
to
have had-
process. It's been a long journey. I mean, we started because you know, Ray Petrie, who was the kind of the head, the chief of Buffalo. So the kind of the Buffalo,
the movement.
movement of Buffalo. He was dying. He had AIDS. He was dying just around the time when we were working on Raw Like Sushi. And we were talking one day, and he said, like, I'm not going to make it. You know, like, I'm sorry. And but I think you should work with Judy, is what he said. And I was like, Judy Blame. And I knew Judy Blame from, you know, around the ways, and had always been really, just felt very drawn to him when we were around. We'd always look at each other and kind of say, hey, and we were sort of quite intrigued by each other. But it was a real, like, really?
Wow.
Judy? So then, so that's how it happened. It was really like Ray gave his blessing to that.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So then, you know, and here we are.
Wow.
So we had a long trip together.
And that as part of your tapestry with like Judy being quite a pioneering fashion designer and accessory maker, that opened a whole heap of doors that kind of cross-pollinated you, like you say, the Buffalo movement and the whole. I mean, because obviously, like your dad being Don Cherry and all the other associated musicians that kind of were in your world. Then all of a sudden, you're in the more fashion world as well. Do you know what I mean? It kind of cross-pollinated.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, talking about kind of being, not paying too much attention to the rules.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't really like, oh, I'm going to go and hang out in the fashion world. It was just like meeting people who were doing different things.
Yeah.
And I think it's like that now in London, like there are a lot of people that know each other, like, that are in different places, working, artists who'll be involved with someone who's like maybe more in the sort of fashion district, and I think...
it's kind of a given now, isn't it?
It's just cross collaborating, and I think like when we started working together, there was always that thing where we were going to take bits of like kind of high fashion and mix it up with other stuff, and not paying too much. You could pay homage to something, but without getting like trapped in the concept of like, oh, this is a whole look.
Yeah.
So it was just
breaking
more
some ribs off.
It was just like taking
taking
bits and pieces of like putting a Jean Paul Gaultier with, the cycling shorts, which was quite a Buffalo thing.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
You know what I mean? And the trainers and like the school. I mean, I was really also like really, of course, into like, MC Light and like the kind of there were some really strong women in hip hop in that era.
But like people like TLC, I think they adopted a lot of what you and Judy kind of like started creating. I think they took it. They took it to Bubblegum at 13, but at that time, like you were the kind of the buck stopped there.
I think
you know what I mean?
it was I think. Like I think Judy was just so his consciousness was amazing because he would always look at the person that he was working with. And I guess we became close really quickly. So he was always interested in, and I think that the visuals are always like some, obviously it's not always about the visuals, but if you're working with visuals, I think you can say so many, you can pull so many threads into what you're putting out there to feed, the unconsciously and consciously into to people the ideas of what they're seeing. So the contrasts were like a really big part of it. And I guess I was, always in trainers anyway. And then we used to, and then that kind of the door knocker, the hip hop jewelry, and all that stuff that was kind of coming from the street that I guess was just a given in a way. But then mixing it up with like an Azadin Alaya or we used to go to World a lot. So
where's World? What was that?
It was a shop where like Roy. And it was a shop run by, there was a club night called Kinky Galinky. Michael and Galinda, who were the sort of running that club, and people like Lee Bowery used to, loads of people used to. It was a big extravaganza of dressing up and,
No, I recognise the name of the club. Yeah,
they had a shop in Covent Garden, and it was an amazing shop with like literally that, some of the lot that when we weren't traveling then, that's like I think when we found the dollar sign and the kind of the jewelry, and they would have like literally African stuff and samba things
kind of stuff
from things from around the world. So I think just like we were trying in a way just like making our statement. The visual statement came through what you saw, And
it's kind of lucky that kind of forward thinking now, because it's almost like, again, it's just like customary. Like when you're an act now, it's just like, well, you've got to have a look. In fact, the look the music is the soundtrack to your look. You got to be just like on point.
Or sometimes the look is the soundtrack.
Yeah,
which
totally. Yeah. How
which is
viral
like,
you can make
get
that.
the look first, and then. But I just think, like attitude. You know, I like things that have attitude, but also a playfulness. You know, and you can also bring things in that are, you know, sort of wild and wonderful to the visual feast. But I think that, you know, there's a place also where, you know, it can also become very stiff. You know, so if you're
How do
kind
you
of
mean?
ruled by the clothes and how everything looks
there's no
and how you
flexibility to
look.
move.
You know, it's like I walked in here just now and I was like, oh my God, I'm sweaty. I better put on some lipstick.
Yeah, I
I'm
left the
being
window
filmed.
open for you, babe.
And, oh my God. But it's just like, you know what? It's like, fuck it. Do you know what I mean? I just think you are what you are. So it's like great to look nice. Obviously, it's nice to look your best. But I don't want to be like ruled by it. Even when, you know, like I was supposedly like, you know, kind of successful or famous or being recognized a lot, I was just like, I've got to be able to go to the store in my slippers.
This is going to drive
or
me
I'm
mad.
going to go
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and if that's a disappointment to someone, it's like, there's not a lot I can
Oh,
do about it.
But you've always been you've always been super approachable. You know what I mean? It's like I can't imagine.
Well, I mean,
it
because
being the other
I
way.
just, I'm, you know, I think that's, I don't think I'll do anything interesting ever again if I stopped. Like, I think that's the weird thing when things like, I think you were talking before about like when the kind of concept of when you're working, not the concept, but the reality, when you're working really hard and, you know, if you've got a record that's you're touring or something, you know, and everything's going really fast and it's like, actually then it becomes really hard to kind of keep a hold of the things that, just the little things that you do that make you, that inspire you, or, you know, all of a sudden you are like taken into this kind of weird bubble.
And you're internalized, you're inside your...
Yeah, and you're just kind of giving out. Like you're not necessarily, there's not always enough time to take it. I think that's like, I mean, I didn't make an album for like 17 years. I didn't really mean to, you know, like not make an album for that long. But I guess I started to fall under the weight of that pressure where I was thinking too much about like, oh, you know, is this gonna be good? Is this gonna, you know, is this gonna be successful?
Double guessing yourself.
Does this sound like a hit, or is this what people are expecting me to sound like? And I was like thinking too much, and then I was like, this isn't. And then doing stuff and kind of recording stuff, and I wasn't really inside it. Like I became kind of restricted a little bit, like felt unfree. And I think, so then I just like did a bunch of other stuff and worked with quite a lot of other people, and I was always writing, and then I just got to a place where it was time all of a sudden, and then I
kind of parks itself up at the
I
right
was
point,
just like,
right?
okay, now I'm like, I need to get out the other side.
Yeah.
But I guess I've always had a bit of a nightmare. Like my nightmare was like getting stuck in a thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you're just, and it's a weird thing. Like there's such a kind of double-edged sword, because it's like there's an expectancy that you should sound fresh and that you come with something hard and new, but not too different. So it's like people expect you to have a kind of they want to hear something that they know, but they also want to be like impressed by like you know.
And they want you to, the immediate fans want you to be the thing that they remembered you of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, life goes on. You know?
Life goes on, and you've got to tell that story. I mean, to me, it's like I'm figuring out how life goes on through the work, in a way.
You mentioned that your stuff was quite going a little left to centre. I mean, I saw you on the BBC only a couple of weeks ago. You did a festival.
Oh yeah, I did the radio.
It sounded great, and it kind of just made total sense, man. It was like, I liked it a lot.
Bless you.
Yeah, man, makes sense. Makes complete sense.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you think so. I'm really looking forward to putting out this new record, because I feel actually kind of like a little bit like, without backtracking, but a little bit like I did when I made like Homebrew, I guess, where I felt like I really managed to go inside it, like really get inside the songs. And like the record I did before, which Kieran Hebden also produced, but it was more like a band project with
he
Rocket
produced
Number
that too?
9. Yeah, and that was like that was quite kind of that was just like a large outlet. You know, it was like very kind of quite strong energy. The Rocket Number 9, you know, they're two brothers. And they Ben Page and Ben Page and oh my God, Tom Page. I'm just like losing my mind. And they're just like forceful. They're amazing. They played like, I mean, it was quite synthesized and live drums, also electronic drums.
Sick,
But it was quite hard. And I felt like coming into this new record that I just needed to be more like reflective, to go just come in, not internalize, but to just be more like, meditative or something.
Gotcha.
So, and then so with this one, Cameron and I did like some really good writing, I think. It felt good. And then we went to Kieran and recorded it, and he made an interesting journey sonically. I feel like he really drew, like he pulled all the threads together, like even from like my childhood and the music that I grew up around, through the different things that I've done
awesome,
to here to now. So it's like organic, electronic, you know, beats, but it feels like a full circle, like it's all in there.
It makes sense. And you explaining it now makes it even more sense.
So we'll see.
Yeah, man. Yeah, totally. I know you're busy. I know you're going to be busy for the rest of the day. I really appreciate you coming through.
Oh, thank you.
And Mabel's okay? She good?
Mabel's good. Speaking of, you know, being busy.
She killing it.
And she's killing it. And she's just, but I'm watching her like just in that place where she's like about to go on holiday tomorrow. And I have to say, Big Mama's happy.
Richly deserved.
Girl needs a rest.
She's been killing it.
Yeah. I'm proud of, you know, I have 3 daughters and a stepson, Marlon, Naima, Tyson, and Mabel, the 4, and they're just all, I mean, like teaching me stuff every day.
Oh, I love that.
I'm honored.
See, I don't have kids. I can only imagine what that's like.
Well, you might still have some. You know, you don't have the issue of your body clock.
Yeah, there is that as well, isn't there?
Yeah, a little.
Except when this would be me anyway, you know, when I hit 65, my kids will still be like pretty young. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, you know.
Yeah, and I guess the issue that, just like getting up at 5 a.m, going to the playground at like 8 a.m.
Kick a ball, walking.
Kick a ball. Keep you young.
Yeah.
Keep you agile.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Neneh Cherry, thanks for coming by.
Thank you so much.
Good times. Killa Kela podcast, stay lucky, stay out of trouble, all right? Peace. How's that?
That was good, wasn't it? It was fun.
Yeah, man.